If you are just a few RP points away from purchasing the skin you want so badly, there's actually a way to get the free RP. It has become a player tradition to draw art of something League related and send in a support ticket asking for those few RP points in exchange of an artistic masterpiece. There is actually some pretty funny drawings, such as just a text written "Twitch is invisible" or a red circle indicating Vladimir W. Some art can go to Photoshop level and others are just very simple ones. Riot Games reported that in an 11-month period they received over 24,000 RP art tickets worldwide with reasonable requests. In 2019, Riot estimated that they have gotten 300,000 RP art submissions in total. Assuming an average of 25 RP given out, Riot would have given out about 7.5 million RP since the program began. There's a website dedicating to showcasing this RP art, and I'll leave it in the description if you need some inspiration. So if you are ever in need of some sweet RP, take your time to draw some art and ask Riot for some RP. The amount of game modes League had permanently used to be 4, Summoner's Rift and its associated submodes like Blend Pick, Draft Pick, etc. are 3v3 Twisted Treeline and Dominion. Dominion and Twisted Treeline would later be removed, and there was a pushback in the community where a lot of people got disheartened over this fact. Moreover, Riot has had many temporary game modes that were super entertaining to play, such as Doombots, Ascension, Earth, Legend of the Portal King, and Hexakill. Riot Games would double down on removing Twisted Treeline and Dominion, and so far we've never seen them return. The reason why Riot removed these game modes was explained in more detail in several articles. Regarding Dominion, a post titled "Retiring Dominion" explained that "We truly believe Dominion would introduce new players to League of Legends and provide current players with an experience as captivating as Summoner's Rift. After years of learning, it's clear that alternative game modes work better in short cycles rather than as standalone queues. Fewer than 0.5% of players actively play Dominion, and we are aware of some number of even that small population is still bots. We haven't been supporting Dominion, and we have trapped ourselves in a vicious cycle where the queue isn't large enough to warrant major attention, but falls prey to bugs and periods of imbalance from the introductions of new champs and items. In the absence of our attention, matchmaking and the game quality in Dominion varies widely based on daily engagement. Because of how matchmaking works, the longer someone looking to play Dominion waits in queue, the wider the pool of potential foes the matchmaker can pull from. With such a small population, Dominion games can match up widely divergent skill levels after long enough queue times. And as for Twisted Treeline, the same issues were found by Riot. They argued that there was a low population and that this small population leads to long queue times, poor matchmaking, and ultimately an unsatisfying PvP experience for many of the players who do queue up for Treeline. And therefore Riot decided to retire it, as they didn't want to put more resources to Twisted Treeline. The thing is, Riot has featured many other gameplay modes before, as I said, and in a post regarding those temporary featured game modes, Riot explained that they're temporary for the following reason. Featured game modes are designed from the ground up to be short-term engagement experiences. The main design concern is that featured gameplay modes are not designed to be long-term engagement experiences. They're designed to make a big splash with the knowledge that they will be removed shortly thereafter. Adding permanency would constrain the design wiggle room we have to make each mode as unique as possible. Nexus Blitz, which was an attempt to bring in a new permanent game mode, failed as well, as Riot would state, "Nexus Blitz was our first attempt at a new always-on mode that could last a long time. As we discussed before, players overall really enjoy Nexus Blitz for the first few weeks of availability, but stopped playing pretty quickly after that. While Nexus Blitz didn't have the level of consistent engagement we're looking for in an always-on mode, it still makes for a really strong game mode and would like to bring back a couple of times a year." Still, people felt upset that these game modes were removed. While Riot is a for-profit company, they understandably can do this and need to prioritize resources. I mean, what can you expect from a small indie game company like Riot? Besides, these game modes like Dominion and Nexus Blades were fun game modes played every now and then, and you know, a relaxing haven after some intense ranked sessions. Easter eggs and League go hand in hand, as there are plenty of them in-game. Some you probably already know, such as the Jinx hidden passive or the Rengar Kha'Zix special mission that appears, but here are a few Easter eggs that most people don't know about in League. If you write Last Shadow in the shop, you will find 2 items, Leander's Torment and Morellonomicon. This is a memorialization to the big League personality LS. LS, also known as Leander's salesman, is a failed marketing executive who makes a living as an LCK colorcaster. He is specifically known for attempting to rebuild his sales resume by convincing players to buy out of meta items. I'm just messing around, as these are one of the many copypastes regarding LS. He is actually a big League of Legends personality and mainly focuses on the esports side of things. There was a time in League where items were different and Leander was called Leander's Torment rather than Leander's Anguish. His biggest argument would occur here, which was between 2 in-game items, Leander's Torment and Morellonomicon. Morellonomicon. In short, LS staunchly supported Leander's Torment over Morellonomicon because its scaling madness effect was more useful than Morello's Grievous Wounds debuff. A lot of pro players did build this Morellonomicon item, even though it was just outright useless in some games. Eventually people started to listen to LS regarding his arguments and started building Leander more. The concept of pay-to-win skins also comes from Easter egg interactions, such as Leona being countered by sunglasses, and some skins would have said sunglasses, and these sunglasses would of course make sure that they receive one less damage from Leona than other champions. While on the topic of Leona, if Zyra gets hit by Leona's sunlight, she grows and so does her plants, obviously due to photosynthesis. There are countless more Easter eggs, such as if Jack stays in the river for a few seconds, he will randomly start fishing. Once he gets a fish, he gets a gold, and if he gets a rare fish, he gets 5 gold. If Yon and Yasuo are close together and one of them does the dance emote, the other champion automatically does so too. If you have Popstar Arya and dance near Rift Herald or Blue Buff, they will also dance with you. If Nunu dies to Thresh, he drops 2 souls. Pi gains 1 bonus movement speed in the river. If a medium or a large Fizzult kills a small champion, their body disappears after being eaten. Feeding Poros with Braum grants them a mustache, but if you use the Dragon Slayer skin, you will give them an orange mustache. And if your ward, if it survives for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, gets the passive Distinguished Order of Ward Longevity and Health. And perhaps the most interesting of them all is that Pentakill Olaf's E showcases the old Pentakill logo for a few frames upon usage. The new champion Briar also has reportedly some Easter eggs to it, as written by Riot August on Twitter. These Easter eggs so far hasn't been discovered, but who knows, perhaps they are just some voice lines or maybe there is something deeper to it. If you seriously have issues getting a girlfriend or a boyfriend, the champion Blitzcrank runs a dating service called Fleshlink Compatibility Services, where you engage in instantaneous mating. If you are a user of this platform, you're required to answer 748 questions detailing every aspect of your personality and a thermal scan of your body for some reason. Blitzcrank prouds himself for multiple successful pairings such as Ashe and Tryndamere, Garen and Katarina, and as well as Rammus and a cactus. He even said that, "I have been studying flashlinks of all types and developed a series of equations that can determine with 96.55% accuracy the short and long-term outcomes of any flashling relationship." Back in 2017, Riot had created some sort of matchmaking website based on this lore. You could have used it to find your true match, but nowadays this is defunct. So if you're not having any luck in the dating market, you could try out the Fleshlink compatibility services.
Suspect does remain behind bars here tonight. In the meantime, his younger brother, who's made quite a name for himself in the online gaming world, says that he is joining his family, including his father, who authorities say remains in the hospital recovering from multiple stab wounds.
In 2018, a week before the NA Spring LCS season finals between Team Liquid and 100 Thieves, American pro player Doublelift learned that his mother was unalived and his father seriously injured after his older brother allegedly stabbed them in their family home in California. Doublelift obviously took some time off social media during this time, but despite this, Doublelift was determined to play in the final as planned and convincingly defeated 100 Thieves in a 3-0 and won its first league championship. There's a 99% chance that you don't know any of these items at all. These are Seal and Sheen, Wraithfire Crossbow, Skull Crusher, Sharpening Stone, Shadow's Ire, Scroll of Speed, Rejuvenation Potion, Phage and Seal, Nether Rift Armor, Megaton Mallet. No, and it's not the Frozen Mallet that you're thinking of. Mechanism, Mech, Loosely Packed Grenade, Longstaff, Knife. Okay. Infernus Justice, Hurricane, Healing Totem, wait, what? Gale Force? Exquisite Candy, Clever Hoop, and Byfire Bracer. We don't know much about these items and we can only speculate. As for Gale Force, obviously perhaps developed to the Gale Force we have today, and Megaton Mallet developed into Frozen Mallet. But the ones who actually know what these items originally do are the people who played an alpha version of League of Legends. There's some interesting information regarding the alpha items. The Longstaff's icon was used to denote basic attacks in Death Recap prior to patch 9.14. There was other items in the alpha test that just sounds crazy today, such as Scroll of Teleportation, where you can teleport to a target allied structure and it holds up to 3 charges. This is an inspiration from Dota obviously, or Parasitic Recurve Bow that has a passive of 5% mana leeching. The League of Legends community is actually responsible for creating some gaming terms and memes we have today. In fact, there's a whole list of terminology related to League of Legends in a fandom wiki page, and this thing is insanely long. We have the meme 200 years, which refers to a champion whose kit has a convoluted or superfluous amount of attributes, resulting in them being extremely frustrating to play against. This obviously came from the design history of Aphelios. Int or inting, which I actually think originated from League, means intentionally feeding. Basically means that you are repeatedly dying to the enemy team, giving them gold golden experience. FF, which means forfeiting or surrendering. B, which means to back, which in turn means to retreat from the enemy towards your base or using their recall function. 131 or 1-4, which just usually denotes how many champions should be in each lane, such as 1 top, 3 mid, 1 bot, or 1 top or bot, and 4 mid. Space Aids, which is Malzahar's E. Kill Lane, which is a lane, usually bot lane, selected for the specific purpose of slaying the opposing 2 champions during the laning phase. Mom Go Sky, which is a term commonly used by Korean players to denote their frustration in solo queue. There are also terms coined by player names such as Insect, which is a type of play where a champion tries to position behind an enemy, then knock back them in the direction of the allied team, which makes them a vulnerable target. Essentially, it can be a game-changing move. This type of move was popularized by the pro player named Insect, of course, which did it with Lee Sin, where you ward, you use W to jump to the ward, which is positioned behind your enemy, and then you use your ultimate, which kicks the enemies towards your allied teammates. Insect is a term used on other champions too, such as Azir with his EQR combo, or Tristana, or Poppy, or Shyvana, and even Jetta. Shouting XPeg means that you're backdooring, which means that you're taking the enemy nexus without the enemies being present. Getting Speakad means that your whole team is sleeping while you're doing a play. Vipo trading is when you do a trade with an enemy champion, but it necessarily isn't in your favor. Say you lose 40% of your HP, but your opponent only loses 20%. You do this because you're setting up a die, which makes the enemy's lost HP an incredibly valuable deed. I've also heard Vipo trading is used in a context where you trade with the enemy as much as you can, and then just teleport back to lane where your opponent has now lost HP and you are full on resources. Jin's champion teaser was perhaps one of the most mysterious and interesting champion teasers Riot released so far. It started with champions seemingly being dead or murdered on their champion website page. But another interesting part about Jin is that if you dot a line from each letter on your keyboard, you will essentially draw the number 4. There was another interesting and creative champion teaser that Riot had planned, which was with Vel'Koz. With their plan, they wanted to feature Vel'Koz invading other content creators' YouTube channels. As far as we know, 14 YouTubers invaded from different regions. Here's how this looked like.
Sinon, je peux m'en aller ou bien? Ah putain, mais non, 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 non! What the fuck, dude?
You take the blue cause I'm bad, come around the side, boom, you dead! What the fuck? I don't even know what the fuck that was.
Riot Games has a lot of dead champions, or rather cancelled champions. Some of these champions were revisited in the future and were taken inspiration from. For example, our Shin is of course a dragon champion and looks very similar to Aurelion Sol today. Or Omen, who looks extremely similar to Naafiri. However, there's a few interesting champions that never saw the light. Gavid the Plant King, for example, would be a melee mana using champion, his abilities was as such. Vine Generation. Gavid spawns a small vine with a small area of effect at random every 2 seconds, kinda like Syra. Thorns. Gavid and his vines inflict damage to melee attackers upon being struck. Animate Thorn Spitter. Consumes a target vine, turning it into a Thorn Spitter plant that fires thorns at nearby enemies, dealing damage. Animate Entangler. Consumes a target vine, causing it to explode into a mass of roots that entangles nearby enemies for a few seconds. Animate Vitalis. Consumes a target vine to create a Vitalis plant which heals nearby allied units every 3 seconds. At Trench, Gavid roots himself to the ground for a few seconds, healing a portion of his max health. During this time, Gavid generates an immediate extra 7 vines. The next animate ability animates all vines within a medium area of effect of the target vine. Riot reportedly cancelled Gavid because he didn't fit with the game's artistic theme. Another interesting champion is Tabu the Voodoo Shaman. Enemies around Tabu deals 50% reduced damage. Tattoo links Tabu to an enemy or allied champion for 20 seconds. While linked, a percentage of the damage taken on either is also shared with the other. If linked to an ally, the same percentage instead heals than deal damage. Circle of Ancestor, Tabu curses the target area, damaging all enemy units and heals allies. Pacify, Tabu pacifies the target enemy unit for a few seconds. Soul Drain, Tabu tethers himself and attempts to steal its soul, dealing damage to it while regenerating the same amount each second. Tabu was initially discovered in the beta files but was cancelled since then. The visual and gameplay similarities seem to be reworked into the champion Swain, and well, that's before his rework of course. Well, the Hydra Soul would be a ranged mana using support, where nearby allied units gain increased mana every second. Summon a water elemental, Crushing Wave, a column of water crashes through enemies in a line, dealing damage. If the wave touches a water elemental, it sends a duplicate wave in the direction of the elemental is facing. Vortex creates a vortex of water at target location that deals damage every second. Enemies moving away are stopped heavily, enemies moving perpendicular are slowed way less. Torrent create a heavy downpour that covers the entire map. Increase friendly units' health and mana regen, and all allied champions gain increased spell damage. There's of course tons of other cancelled champions like Priscilla, Avedarian, or Rob Blackblade. Avedarian, Tabu, and Gavid would all eventually be confirmed to be cancelled in 2010 in the harrowing map map skin for Summoner's Rift. Here we could see the 3 coffins for those champions. If you have a teammate who goes AFK, you can remake a game to not lose LP in a ranked game and just outright cancel a match. Remakes are sophisticated today, but before players would actually manipulate the system in a way that remakes wouldn't happen. Before, the remake system was coded in such a way that if the AFK champion got experience points, then you wouldn't be eligible for a remake. With this knowledge in mind, if people said that one of their teammates is AFK or just randomly wrote remake in all chat, or if one guy didn't appear in lane when the minion spawned, a manipulating player would quickly run towards the fountain of the enemy team by either flashing or dashing over the wall and then die in the fountain, causing the AFK player to get experience. And such a remake would never happen. This would of course lead to a huge advantage until that other player came back, or you could just end up in a straight 4v5 game. Nowadays this is fixed and remakes are way faster if you stay AFK for too long. Hell, if you don't move while you're Netflixing on Yumi, you're very likely to get an AFK warning quickly. If you liked the video, make sure to subscribe, support me on my Patreon. If you didn't like the video, I thank you for watching so far.